The Gruely Truth's NHL Playoff Preview. Today we're going to look at the first round of the playoffs, give you predictions and previews for every game. And remember, the Gruely Truth is powered by betting.net. Betting.net is your best bet for finding the online casino or sportsbook that's right for you. Make sure you check them out at betting.net. All right, guys, we're going to start off with the Carolina Hurricanes against the Boston Bruins. Carolina is minus 125. The Bruins are plus 104. When we look at the regular season matchup, you would think this should probably be a bigger difference. Carolina dominated a season series, outscoring the Bruins 16-1 in their 3 games. That alone should make this an easy series to pick, shouldn't it? I think we've seen in the past, there's always upsets in the first round of the NHL playoffs. I think this is going to be a small upset. I think the power play will be the key for the Bruins to turn around what happened during the regular season against the Hurricanes. The Bruins' 5-on-5 scoring in the last week or two with a few line changes really made a huge difference for this Bruins team. If they could be successful on the penalties, on the special teams, I think they could win this. I like the Bruins in this series. I think that the Hurricanes are struggling in goal. That combined with a newfound Bruins offense to go with an already stout defense leads to an upset. I'm going to call the Bruins here in 6 games. And, the thing I like, we get plus odds, so you get value for the money. Next up, we've got the New York Rangers, minus 115 against the Pittsburgh Penguins, minus 104. This is another matchup that on paper looks like it's going to be a close series. And I think it will for the most part. The Rangers won 3 games against the Penguins in a span of fewer than 2 weeks from March 25th to April 7th. They limited Pittsburgh to just 4 goals in that regular season series. But this is the playoffs, as we just said. We just took the Bruins over to the Hurricanes, even though the Hurricanes dominated them during the season. So, are we going to do that again? We are, because I think the Rangers' outlook in goal is much brighter and settled. All right? They've got a guy who is in the discussion for the Hart Trophy even. He's a favorite to win the Vezina. And when you look at the Pittsburgh Penguins, not so much the same thing here. I think the Rangers will win this series because they have a huge advantage in goal. I'm going to take the Rangers in 6. I'm going to feel really good about it because I think the Rangers are going to go ahead. I think they're going to get this done. Next up, we got Florida versus the Washington Capitals. The big question with Florida is this. We always hear defense wins championships. The Florida Panthers are the highest scoring team of the Cap era. And they are something of a throwback. The Panthers are the first team since the 95-96 Penguins to average over 4 goals per game. They're a youngish team that's taken some time to mature. And when I look at this, they lost last year in the qualifying round 2 years ago. They lost in the first round last season. This year's Caps team is less intimidating than those of a decade or so over the last decade. But they are fully seasoned, capable. You got Alex Ovechkin of jumping up and biting you when you least expect it. I don't think that the Panthers will win it all this season. I think the defense has got too many issues here. But I do think they win this series. I think they win it handily. I'm going to take the Panthers over the Capitals in 5 games. You can take that one in the bank too. I feel real good about all 3 of those series. Next up, we've got Toronto, who is the cursed, snake-bitten team. We'll take on the Tampa Bay Lightning, who are trying to become the first team in forever to win 3 straight Stanley Cups. Now, the Maple Leafs, by any measurements, had a historically good season for the Maple Leafs. They won 54 games, 115 points, 60 goals, and a new franchise record for Austin Matthews. The Maple Leafs are looking to win the Stanley Cup for the first time in more than 50 years. Now, 4 meetings between these 2 teams have yielded 28 goals, and a pair of April games showed how emotionally charged this series could be. I think this is going to be a great series. Now, I also think this. I think this is the worst possible matchup for Toronto, and the difference in this series will be between the pipes, where I think Tampa Bay has a considerable advantage. I think Tampa Bay takes this series in 6 games and knocks out Toronto, gives them, their 6th or 7th straight first-round loss. And it's a damn shame because this Toronto team is good enough to go a lot farther. I just think the matchup against Tampa Bay is not that good. All right, real quick, I want to tell everybody, we suggest that you go to FanDuel Sportsbook to make all your bets on the NHL playoffs. So make sure you check them out. FanDuel, the link is in the description of the video here on YouTube. Now we're going to transition. We're going to go to the Western Conference, where the first matchup we're going to look at looks like a mismatch. The league-dominating Avalanche will take on the Nashville Predators, one of the last teams to get into the league playoffs, in a Stanley Cup first-round match that looks completely lopsided on paper. The Avalanche have an overwhelming amount of scores, and to just cut this straight, let's do this. This is an overwhelming mismatch on paper. It's also going to be an overwhelming mismatch on the ice. I look for the Avs to take this in 4 straight games. All right, guys, next up, we've got Minnesota. The Wild will take on the St. Louis Blues. Minnesota's minus 138. The Blues are plus 115. Interesting series. I think this is a series that could easily go 7 games. They were within a few points of each other during the season. Minnesota is led by the Russian superstar Kareli Kasparova, who surpassed the 100-point mark in his second season. He also finished the regular season inside the top 10 for the Hart Trophy. The big concern here is the health of his line mate, Mats Zuccarello, who is dealing with an upper body injury. Zuccarello had 79 points, is questionable for Game 1. The Wild haven't won a playoff series since 2015. The Blues are an explosive offense, plenty of firepower on every line. St. Louis features 9 different players who scored more than 20 goals. I think Zuccarello missing Game 1 and possibly Game 2 could be the difference in a really tight series. I'm going to take St. Louis in the upset to win this series in 7 games. All right, next up, Calgary versus Dallas. The interesting here about Calgary is no Canadian team has won the Stanley Cup since 1993 when the Canadiens beat the LA Kings in 5 games. After a 50-win series, the Flames returned to the playoffs with a significant turnaround from missing out last year. If any Canadian team can win this, it's Calgary. Calgary's defense has been better than expected, and the Flames have a trio of 40-goal scorers making up their top line and a goalie who could qualify as a Vezina finalist. The Stars remain struggling on offense. They have a super line, but their strength remains defense. It's not as stout as 2020, and the goalies behind them are not as proven. In my eyes, Calgary is just a better team. I think they come on top here. I think Dallas does cause some issues. I think Calgary wins this in 5 or 6 games. Next up, we're going to look at the LA Kings against the Edmonton Oilers. The Oilers are a significant favorite, almost 2.5 to 1 at minus 230. The Kings, you can get almost 2 to 1 odds at to win this series. So, when we look at this, a coaching change turned Edmonton's season around. Since Woodcroft has replaced Tippett around, I think it was around the second week of February, the Oilers are 26-9-3. That's good for a 724 points percentage, the NHL's 3rd best mark behind the Panthers and the Flames in that time period. The playoffs are for the big boys, and there's some young Kings defensemen here who could be thrown into the fire against McDavid and the rest of the guys with the Edmonton Oilers. The number that sticks out to me the most is the Oilers' advantage on special teams. So with all of that being said here, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick the Oilers to win this. I think it's going to go 7 games. I think the Kings are going to surprise some people, win 2 or 3 games in there, and make this a competitive series. I think it goes to at least 6 at worst. All right, guys, remember, it's not just sports betting. Betting.net compares the best online casinos. Sit back, relax, and play the top online slots, poker, and table games at betting.net. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure you check out the link in the description to FanDuel. Also, check out the link to our description of our how to bet on hockey if you've never bet on hockey before. But for now, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been watching and listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.